Hey guys, it's Brian, and on today's Slam Presents, we speak with Lindsey McCann Jastram, who is the owner of Old Main Gallery. We discuss what artists can do to catch the attention of and the best ways to approach gallery owners. We talk do's and don'ts about how to establish those relationships and how to build on them. Our talk is filled with tips for new or even seasoned artists on ways to help get your work showcased. If you enjoy our video, please like, comment, and subscribe. So Lindsey, what is one thing an artist can do to stand out to a gallery owner or someone who's trying to get work into an exhibit?
I think the most important thing, and I will say this over and over and over again, is to be honest in themselves and their work. I think one of the biggest mistakes that artists make is they see a different artist being successful in what they're doing, and they try to somehow replicate or mimic that type of work. And it's pretty obvious, you know?
You need to be authentic.
Totally.
Let your voice come across.
Absolutely, and that you're telling your story and not somebody else's. So I think that that's one of the most important things. Second, then figuring out a new and interesting way to do that. And really pushing whatever medium it is that you're working with to a point where you're uncomfortable even with maybe how things are going until the piece is finished. And then I think all of that kind of works together to create interest and intrigue that will then stand out to both a gallery owner and a potential art buyer.
Because it's your voice and it's a little bit different. It's not what people are saying over and over.
Exactly.
Even though you're trying to find your authentic voice, is there any amount of research people should look into to understand basically what's selling?
I mean, I think always being aware of what's in a certain market is important. You know, obviously in Bozeman, there's a tendency towards more Western type of work. But if you live in the West and you're telling your own story, there's inherently going to be a Western thread that runs through that because we're also tied to the land that we live on, right? So trying to force that, I think, is when things come off a little bit awkward. So being aware of what is in the market, I think, is important. You don't want to be doing something that somebody else has already done. You know, you want to make sure that it's new and exciting. And also, I think it helps to pay attention to what the prices are in the market that you're looking to show your work. And that can be hard, especially if you're looking at showing in multiple areas in the United States. Because there can be a big fluctuation in, you know, what one market will pay versus another. And you want to keep a pretty consistent price point across the board. But I think in general, a little bit of research is necessary, but not too much.
And you also might be able to find some ideas and you translate it into your own. You just spoke on the idea of if you're showing in multiple markets, trying to find that consistent price point. Should somebody look to maybe the place that's easiest for them to showcase or the place that they have the most traction and let that be kind of their central guide?
I think as a up-and-coming artist, yes, for sure. You know, if you have one gallery where you place some pieces and you're selling them like this, I think that that is a good sign. And then keep talking to that gallery owner or representative and ask them, you know, are they hesitant on the price or does it seem really easy? And then discuss at what point to raise the prices and how gently to do it. I've worked with some artists that are, you know, local to Bozeman and totally amazing and worth every penny that they're asking, and then maybe move to another market and then their prices skyrocket. And then the clientele that they had here and the collectors that they had here in Bozeman are like, whoa, you know, like great for me because I just made this investment that I didn't really know I was making. However, now I kind of feel left behind. So you got to be a little bit there needs to be some sensitivity to previous collectors, but also with your sights set high, obviously, on yourself and your work.
It's also about being authentic.
Yeah.
That's where you come from, and you're traveling into kind of new territory, but you're finding your voice. You're exploring something that you find fun and enjoyable, and along the way, you are staying in touch with the people who help get you to that point.
Absolutely, yeah. Staying grounded to your roots, I think, is important in any profession.
Yeah, for sure, because you need to enjoy it.
Yeah.
You're not just doing it for, it's like, especially art more than other stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have some enjoyment in it.
Yeah,
so.
your soul is basically what you're selling, so you have to be true to your soul.
Don't tell an inauthentic story.
Yeah.
Does that come across you as a gallery owner?
For sure. Yeah, I mean, that's our, and I think you're going to touch on this later, but that's like one of the biggest things that we look for when we're working with
somebody being
artists.
true to themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Lindsey, what do you look for when you're trying to find a piece to showcase in the gallery, and how do you approach the artist when you find a piece you like?
So that is a hard question to answer because it's not something that's super straightforward, but I think most of the time it's got to be something that speaks to me personally. And whether that be through the subject matter or the way that the artist is handling the medium, or I definitely have like a color palette that I'm drawn to. It's kind of all of those things. And also, again, back to the authenticity piece. I mean, if it feels forced, I think it's pretty obvious to the viewer, and that's not something that I'm super interested in.
You have your style, and the gallery has its feel.
Yeah.
And over the years, it's really developed, and so it's hard to put an exact word on what that is because art is pretty subjective. But when you see something, you know that it fits.
Yeah, for sure. And I always, whenever I'm looking at work, I think about the other artists that we work with and how it's gonna either complement or compete. Because it's not like I want a gallery full of photographs. I mean, you want to have diversity. So, and that's something to think about too when you're an artist approaching a gallery. If you see something in there that's similar to what you're doing, even with, technique or subject matter or something, don't be offended if they turn you away. It could be simply because of the fact that they feel like it's going to compete with one of the artists that they already have a good relationship with, So I'm always thinking about that and how the pieces will show together and making sure that they're going to complement each other in a way that is helpful for all of the artists. And then when it comes to, if there's an artist that I'm following and I'm interested in, I'll just try and reach out, whether it's through an email or if I know somebody that knows them, a quick phone call or something, and say, hey, I've followed your work for a long time and I really appreciate it, and here's why, and would you be open to having a discussion about maybe working with us in the future? And then just see what happens. And I get turned down a lot, sometimes artists have too many other galleries that they're working with, or they don't feel like it's quite the right fit for them, and you just have to understand that and know that there are probably reasons behind every single decision and not take it personally.
Do you ever, before you even reach out to the artist, speak to the artist to see if they know them? Try and get a better feel of the artist before?
No, but that probably would be helpful. Because the art world is super small. And it turns out after, we start working with an artist, I'm like, oh, you know so-and-so and you know so-and-so? I've known them forever. So that probably would be helpful.
Yeah, it's like two ways. One, it might help give you an avenue to meet them, but then you also might understand if the fit is actually right before you talk to them.
Maybe I'll do that in the future.
Well,
thanks
good.
for that.
Yeah, you learn something new every day.
Sure do.
But I think it's interesting, a point and kind of last thing to talk about was, as an artist, I think you get very personal. You could take a personal rejection, or it could hurt when you get rejected, but it's just part of the business and it works both ways. Everyone's trying to find work, so don't be offended if you get turned down, because also even gallery owners are being turned down.
Totally, all the time. And it's just like, and maybe it's just the timing too. There's a lot of times when there's an artist that will approach us and I'm super stoked about their work and think that we could be a really good fit, but I just like, we're not that big, you know, like I don't have that many walls, and I don't want to do them a disservice by saying, sure, I'll take your work, and then not having room to hang it, you know? So it could be timing too. And I think if you do talk to a gallery and they turn you down, there's no harm in asking why.
Yeah, ask questions and learn. And you may never know why you're successful, but you just gotta keep trying.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, if you are true to who you are, you can't help but be successful.
Yeah, and it's just like you also took a few knocks, you know, but just don't let that bruise you to the point where you're not gonna be your authentic voice.
Right, manifest good things.
And keep trying.
Yeah.
Okay. It's hard sometimes to know why things are successful, but I think it's easier when we look back at things to know why things may have gone wrong. What are some tips that you could give to young artists who are breaking in of things that may have turned you off or things that you've noticed that will steer you away from working with an artist?
I think first, the relationship needs to be pretty natural between the gallery that you're working with and the artist. And if it feels forced or uncomfortable, that's probably a sign that things aren't going to work out. You know, if the gallery is not super excited about the way that you guys are interacting with each other, they're going to be less likely to sell your work or tell your story, you know. So I think that relationship needs to be one that's nurtured and based on total honesty and transparency. The art world can get kind of shady pretty quickly. So I think being transparent in all business dealings is the most important thing. You know, if you sign a contract and you are not sure what's in that contract and then you end up doing something that is breaking that contract, like that doesn't look good, you know, and that puts the gallery in a tough spot where they might not want to call you out on you breaking that contract, you know. It's definitely happened unintentionally before, and I think based on maybe not quite understanding what the artist signed. But also I think that there are times when artists know that they're going against what they've agreed upon solely so they can maybe sell a piece that should have gone through the gallery or something. So I think that is gonna be the #1 red flag for me. Like, if it doesn't feel natural and it's feeling forced and our conversations are strained and there's, I mean, you should feel like friends, you know?
It's a partnership.
For sure.
And also things should be clear, and it's like, I think a couple very good lessons is one, if you're gonna sign any contract, know what it is you're signing as an artist.
For sure.
And then 2, make sure that you're open and honest with your communications and don't take shortcuts that might help you in the short run if it damages a relationship in the long run.
Yes.
Because at the heart of it is still a partnership and you need trust.
Exactly, and it goes both ways, you know. If you, as an artist, are feeling like something doesn't quite feel right with this gallery, or I'm not getting the communication back as promptly as I would like, or whatever it is, like, listen to those internal cues yourself too. Don't fall into this like, oh, I must be in this gallery, and then let them take advantage of you. Make sure that you uphold them to the same standards that you hope that they're holding you to.
Yeah, that's good, and that's like the hardest thing as a young creative to like
Definitely.
think that you can say no.
Yes.
But that's also knowing what you're signing and taking the time to really think about that decision, because if you're locked in, then you don't have the freedom to just go around it, or else you're going to damage that relationship and hurt yourself worse.
Yep, absolutely. And you know, when you are reviewing those kinds of contracts or any other kind of agreement, just be thorough, ask questions. And a lot of galleries will, it's not like, at least ours, it's not steadfast, we make adjustments so that the contract is comfortable for both us and the artist, So if there's don't think that you have to sign the one that they give you. There's room for
right to ask questions.
Negotiations, you know what I mean? Because you need to value your work, and if you feel like this is somehow devaluing it, express that and say, hey, what if we did this instead of this, so.
Yeah, and again, like you always have the right to ask questions, and it's like what you said to begin with. There has to be some natural flow in the conversation between the partners. So if you feel that you're too afraid to even bring up something that makes you uncomfortable
Probably
with the
a bad
contract,
idea.
you're probably just uncomfortable with the contract.
Absolutely, yeah. So that's, for me, the biggest thing when I'm trying to work with an artist. It's just gotta be a natural relationship. And then I think being open to feedback, that would be the next thing. Some artists have a very hard time if I have any kind of feedback. It's not that I'm trying to be critical or change their work in any way, but obviously we're all in this game to make money, unfortunately. So though you do need to be authentic to yourself and your art and your story, maybe the price is a little bit too high, or maybe the way that you're displaying the work is not, up to par, or maybe there's just a few other tweaks that could be done that can elevate your work to the next level. So being open to feedback and those kinds of discussions, I think, is important as an artist, because I'm the eyes and ears of the clients that come in here, so even if I'm with somebody else, I'm always, kind of eavesdropping and listening to reactions from people that come in. So I think that that's important, to be open to that.
You're a team, and that goes back to trust and communication. You need to be able to hear that feedback, because it allows you to spend more time doing the work that you enjoy, because you could sell it, because you know that your gallery is helping you, because you're working together.
Absolutely. And understanding that, it's okay to ask your gallery to do more for you, because it goes back to that same idea. I mean, our goal is the same, to sell your work. So if you feel like the gallery's not upholding their end of the bargain, saying, hey, maybe you could promote this a little bit more, or why is my work always way in the back, or whatever it is, making sure that you understand you're all working together, because the more that they're doing for you, the more you can be focusing on what you as an artist want to be doing, which is creating work.
Well, yeah, that brings up another good point, is be present. Don't think just because it made it to the gallery, then it's
don't ignore,
it's not total
don't
hands off.
Exactly, not all communication's gone. And to use your social media feed to push people to your galleries, I think is also helpful, because people might not know that you're represented by somebody right down the street from them. They might be following you for years and have no idea that they could just pop in and actually see your piece in person. So
yeah, and it also might help cross-promote. You end up helping another artist, and in turn they end up helping you.
Yep.
It's just somebody helps drive traffic to the place where both of your works are shared, and then kind of that partnership grows.
Absolutely.
Okay, we just spoke about partnership, trust, and communication. But of course, to get there, you first have to start. So how do you enjoy, or how do you appreciate being approached by artists, and what tips can you give for artists who are trying to network with gallery owners?
Well, I think I would do my research first. Check out the gallery website. A lot of galleries nowadays will have some sort of online submissions form, and that's usually outlined on their website. The reason being, at least for me right now especially, we're just so swamped with other things going on that it's really hard if somebody just comes in off the street with their art and they're like, here, look at all of this, to be able to devote the attention that we need to at any given moment to do that, it can be difficult. And then, assuming that I think it's kind of rude to assume that they can just drop whatever it is that they're doing to look at that very moment. So online submissions, I think, is the best way.
What about if they just dropped in to say hi?
That's okay.
Don't bring their work, but maybe that's
Don't
a better,
assume-
softer introduction.
Yeah.
Just come in and introduce yourself, and also gives you a chance to look and feel in the gallery to see if this may be a fit.
Yeah, especially if you intend to then follow up with, a submission or whatever. Or maybe you just did and you're like, I just sent my submission form in and I wanted to pop in and put a face to the name or whatever it is, I think that is a good way of handling that. Also, artists know the best artists. So most of the artists that I work with, I get some other artists that that they're friends with or that they appreciate their work, and they're like, hey, have you seen this artist? I think they'd actually fit really well into the gallery. So not being afraid, if you are in a gallery, to think about some of the artists that are in your network and if they might also be a good fit, because you know the gallery, you know their personality, you know the work and the work ethic of your friends or colleagues, and if it seems like you could play matchmaker, maybe do it.
Yeah, I think that's very good. Extend your network. Don't think of it only as an end result that I have to network and meet art gallery owners. You're an artist, you want to be in the art world, be in the art world, let some connections form organically and see where your other connections may lead you to the endpoints that you want to
For sure.
end up at. Where would be a good place if someone is trying to network, though, to maybe interact with more gallery owners in a given place?
That's a good question.
There's no business network for art galleries.
Maybe. I'm so much always here that I don't really ever get out, and I feel like the same goes for most gallery owners. I think some other events, though, maybe would be good. So if you hear that there's art openings at various places, go to those and have your business cards with you and make sure that you appear in somewhat professional manner, and even though most artists tend to be introverts, and I am myself, I think introducing yourself at those kinds of events and saying, hey, this is what I do, is a good way of connecting with both other artists and gallery owners. Also, there's lots of art auctions and things in the area. I don't always go, but I do try and make it to a few every year just to see any new artists or what people are excited about or whatever. So though we haven't really had any this past year, I'm looking forward to when we can have some of those kinds of events, because I think that that's a really good way to meet people.
I think the art opening is a great thing. If there's galleries and stuff that you really want to know, think back to research, kind of know who the people are, so you might be able to approach them at an event. But a great thing, like with an art opening, is you don't have to come in with a cold opening. If you see somebody enjoying a piece, you could come in and you could talk to them about that piece and use that piece as a central networking thing. Because you're an artist, you like to talk about art.
Absolutely.
Here's a chance to reflect on somebody else's, but a way to organically start a conversation.
Yep.
And see where it goes.
Yeah, and it's not always comfortable, for sure. But
life is outside your comfort zone, right? And that's
Exactly.
where it's like you come from an amateur professional. It's pushing
Exactly.
outside that comfort zone to
Yep.
be with the people who can help you and be your team.
Yeah.
Lindsey, you have shared some really great advice with us for artists who are looking to showcase, but now I want to take some time and learn a little bit about you. So how and when did you know that you wanted your life to revolve around art, and how did that translate into you eventually becoming the owner of Old Main Gallery?
Well, to put it simply, where all good things happen in a bar. I was just finishing up my third year at Minnesota State University for biology and chemistry. Though art had always been something that I took for, all through high school and college. I always had to have some kind of art course just to help keep me sane. My now husband then boyfriend and I were talking about just like where we saw ourselves going, and I was not super thrilled with what I was doing in school and felt like I wasn't being true to who I was as a person, and mostly for monetary reasons I was making those decisions. And he was like, you know, you just have to do what makes you happy. So what is that? And I was like, well, I'm happiest when I'm making things. So it was scary, and I took about a year off of school and then transferred and decided to get my fine arts degree. And then I thought, well, this idea of being an artist is very romantic, but do I actually have it in me to do that? And I give artists so much credit because they have to both be so self-promoting until they get to a certain level in their career, but also self-motivating and be able to open up in a way that I realized I didn't really have in me. So I thought, well, you know, museum work or gallery or something, then I'm still connected to the art. So I started doing framing actually, and was really enjoying making things again with my hands and the critical thinking skills that come with custom framing, and eventually moved to Bozeman to work for Jim and Linda Brown, the previous owners of Old Main, as a custom framer, and spent several years doing that, and then eventually started helping out more in the gallery, and then made it through one more transition of ownership when Old Main was then remodeled, and focused then completely on the gallery and realized that it was something that I really, really enjoyed. Those relationships with the artists and being able to tell their story and appreciate their work and love them so much and find people to love their work and the artists as much as I do, you know, was really, really rewarding for me. And then the previous owner approached my husband and I and asked if, you know, we ever considered owning the business, and I had several times, but didn't know how financially to make that happen. And with some hard work and help from our family, we were able to then purchase Old Main about a month before a global pandemic hit, which was very exciting. But you know, Old Main has been a staple to downtown Bozeman since 1964, and we're not going to be going anywhere anytime soon. So.
Well, you found your authentic voice.
For sure.
That you talked about for a while. How long do you think it took you to really feel comfortable as a gallery owner, or even the curator before, where it's like you had these relationships with artists and maybe you didn't feel all the pressure of like, I have to sell, to this is a really enjoyable experience? Or did you always have that?
Oh, I don't know that I have that yet. I mean, obviously, you know, most of the artists that we work with have become like family to us. So their success is our success, and I want to see them be able to push themselves and continue to do what they love to do. And the only way to do that is to sell their work so that they don't have to take a second job or, you know, turn away from art completely. So I think that the pressure is always there. But because we always are thinking about how can we have this honest relationship, it makes it more simple, you know, you're not putting all these other added things. So when I am working with an artist and they do become my friend, it's much easier to sell their work, and it's easier for them to feel comfortable and to produce work that will sell because they're just doing it out of their inner soul, you know.
Some of the pressure's off, and you also better understand how to talk about the art.
Absolutely.
Because you've had more in-depth conversation with the artist,
yes.
and it really now speaks to you in a different way.
Yeah.
Because you understand the true inspiration.
Yeah, that's it.
Great. Do you have any events or any, I guess, openings or anything coming up that you want to promote?
I mean, I wish I had more. We're still being pretty cautious. You know, we typically book about a year out with an exhibition every single month. And so last year, about this time, when we were realizing that we were likely going to have to close the doors, and the artists that had worked a year for a show, now we have to cancel or postpone, that was really heartbreaking and devastating for both us, Micah and I, and the artist. So we've been a little bit cautious, though I do see an end in sight, and my hopes are high for this summer. So we do have some things lined up starting in June. We're going to be featuring Morgan Irons, who is a local Bozeman painter. She's spectacular. And then July, Bruce Park and Deborah McKenna, both, again, Bozeman artists. So then let's see, August, Jim Westphalen, who's one of our photographers, he will be having some of his pieces here in August. And we're looking forward to what we can plan after that, you know, but we're kind of taking it slowly, just in case.
Well, what's the best way people could find out what's happening? Is it social media? Is it your website?
I would say, yeah, Instagram for sure. I'm less...
And what's your handle?
At Old Main Gallery. Less likely to use Facebook so much. I don't know why. I think the Instagram platform works a little bit better for visual art. And our website, we are in the works to try and remodel, so I would say
So
Instagram is
your
probably the most consistent right now. Yeah.
best. Great.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.